Welcome to Cruise News, your daily update on everything happening at sea. Visit cruisenews.io to see today's stories and sign up for email alerts.
So, imagine handing over thousands of dollars and, your precious vacation days for a premium cruise, only to realize that the fine print leaves you totally unprotected when things go wrong.
Right, it's the central tension of the entire industry, to be honest.
Yeah,
Because from the moment you step onto a gangway, you are stepping into this highly orchestrated operational machine.
exactly. And for today's deep dive, we're looking at this strictly from a passenger-focused perspective.
Yeah, we really want to examine where a cruise line's responsibility to you actually begins, and maybe more importantly, where the legal and financial walls suddenly come down to protect the corporation instead.
We are definitely going to test that boundary today.
Hmm.
Because, it's one thing to talk about industry margins and fleet expansions.
Sure. But it's another to look at what happens when the vacation promise just physically breaks down. So we're starting with this ongoing, really major lawsuit from an absolutely catastrophic shore excursion accident in Nassau.
Yeah, this happened back on May 12, 2025.
Right. And it involves Hannah Smith, a 22-year-old recent graduate from Miles College.
She was actually on a celebratory graduation trip. She was sailing aboard the Carnival celebration.
Okay.
And she booked an excursion called the Pearl Island Beach Escape with Lunch.
And the mechanism of how she booked this is, well, it's the crux of why this matters to every single passenger listening.
Exactly.
She didn't find this tour on some random street corner in the Bahamas. She booked it directly through Carnival's onboard platform and their official website.
Her payment was processed by Carnival.
Right. But according to the lawsuit, the sequence of events that unfolded on this excursion is just horrific. The complaint details that during the stop at Pearl Island's Sun Cay Beach Club, employees allegedly provided Smith and other guests with excessive alcohol.
And we're talking high-proof drinks served directly to them.
Yes, and marijuana as well, allegedly.
To give you a sense of the scale here, the litigation actually cites her blood alcohol level at 0.447 for the return trip to Nassau.
Oh, wow. Wait, 0.447?
Yeah. From a physiological standpoint, that is an extraordinarily dangerous level of intoxication.
I mean, that's, what, over 5 times the legal driving limit?
More than 5 times, yeah.
Yeah.
It's a level where basic motor function and situational awareness are, well, they're severely compromised, if not entirely gone.
Which makes the next alleged event so devastating. According to the complaint, as the passengers were returning on this catamaran-style vessel, the boat came alongside the pier to disembark.
Right.
And a crew member allegedly told Smith she could just use the water near the vessel's dive platform as a restroom.
It's just unbelievable.
And when she entered the water, she was drawn into the ferry's spinning propeller.
And the resulting medical trauma is staggering. We're talking about emergency surgeries in Nassau and an emergency airlift back to Miami.
It's just awful.
Her attorneys state she has endured over 30 surgical procedures.
30?
Yeah, which resulted in 3 successive amputations of her right leg, ultimately culminating in a hip disarticulation.
And we should probably clarify what that means medically because it really underscores the severity here. A hip disarticulation isn't just, an amputation of the leg. It is the complete surgical removal of the entire lower limb straight through the hip joint itself.
Exactly. She ultimately lost both legs.
Now, Carnival's official statement says their thoughts are with her and they wish her strength and healing.
Right.
But they can't comment further due to the ongoing legal proceedings. But let's look at the legal defense Carnival immediately mounted because this is where the contract stuff comes in.
Oh, absolutely. They attempted to get this case completely dismissed right out of the gate.
By arguing that independent Bahamian companies, specifically Sun Cay and Pearl Investment Management Group, operated the excursion.
Right. They essentially argued, we didn't drive the boat, so we aren't responsible.
They pointed directly to their posted terms and conditions, which state that shore excursions are operated by independent local companies.
But United States District Judge William Demetrulius denied Carnival's bid to dismiss the case, allowing the lawsuit to proceed.
And I have to push back hard on Carnival's initial defense here. Let's just look at this through the lens of a typical consumer.
Okay.
Booking an excursion directly through a cruise line app, it feels a lot like buying a certified pre-owned car from a major branded dealership.
That's a good comparison.
Right. Sure, you could go down the street and buy a used car from a random guy on the corner for a fraction of the price, but you don't.
No, you willingly pay a premium at the dealership.
Specifically for their implicit stamp of approval. You are paying for their vetting process. You are paying for the safety guarantee that comes with their massive corporate brand name. So how can a cruise line actively market an experience, sell it on their proprietary app, process your payment, take their cut of the profit, and then the moment a catastrophic failure happens, point their finger and claim they're just a passive third party?
And that glaring disconnect between consumer expectation and corporate liability is exactly why the judge let the case proceed.
Right.
The legal mechanisms her attorneys are using here are critical to understand. They're pursuing claims of direct negligence and vicarious liability.
Break those down for us. How do those actually function in maritime law?
So direct negligence looks at Carnival's own actions. It asks, what is the cruise line's legal duty to actively vet and audit the safety protocols of these local providers before slapping a Carnival logo on the ticket?
Did they check the vendor's alcohol service policies, for example?
Right, or did they audit the vessel's safety protocols around the propeller? If they fail to do that vetting, they are directly negligent.
Makes sense. And vicarious liability.
That's based on agency principles. Basically, if a cruise line presents a local tour operator as their trusted partner, using their booking systems, their marketing, their brand umbrella, the law might view that local operator as an agent to the cruise line.
Ah, okay.
Yeah, if you create the illusion of control and safety for the consumer, you carry liability for your agent's actions.
Because the entire shore excursion business model, which, by the way, is a massive profit center for the industry, relies entirely on the passenger trusting that brand umbrella.
Precisely. Cruise lines rely heavily on the revenue generated by third-party shore excursions. But this case highlights the immense structural vulnerability of that model.
Definitely.
When you extend your brand over an independent operator in the Bahamas or anywhere else, you are theoretically assuming a massive responsibility. The passenger relies entirely on the cruise line's branding for safety ashore.
So this lawsuit could really set some significant precedents regarding just how much operational oversight is legally required when a cruise line takes a cut of a third-party tour.
It absolutely could. It's a stark reminder of the unpredictable risks of the outside world.
And honestly, this intense passenger desire for a safe, curated, end-to-end, branded experience, an environment where nothing is left to chance, is exactly why cruise lines are investing massive amounts of capital into heavily themed, tightly controlled onboard environments.
That is the perfect pivot. Because if the shoreside environment is too legally risky or unpredictable to guarantee, the corporate strategy is to build a walled garden on the ship itself.
Right.
A place where the cruise line controls every single variable, from the pouring of the drinks to the spinning of the propellers.
Which brings us to our second structural shift today. Margaritaville at Sea is expanding from a 2-ship operation to a 3-ship fleet.
Yep.
They're doing this by acquiring Costa Cruises' Costa Fortuna and completely converting it into a new ship called the Beachcomber.
This is a fascinating capital investment strategy. The Beachcomber is scheduled to launch in 2027 out of Miami,
Okay.
focusing on week-long, 4 to 8 night Southern and Eastern Caribbean itineraries.
Let's look at the timeline and the structural work required for this because it's intense. The ship is actually staying in service with Costa through this summer.
Right.
Then, in late September 2026, it enters a massive 12-week dry dock. They've tapped Rathbane Group companies, specifically MJM Marine and Mivan, both based in Northern Ireland, to handle a multi-million-pound refurbishment.
And the scale of this refit is just enormous. They are
Right.
completely transforming the passenger-facing areas.
Right, the branded stuff.
Exactly. We're seeing highly specific branded amenities being built. The St. Somewhere Spa, the Flip-Flop Bar, a permanent reminder tattoo studio with expanded space.
Oh, wow, a tattoo studio on board.
Yeah, and what will be the fleet's largest Fins Up fitness center featuring dedicated yoga rooms.
Wait, I have to stop you there because we need to talk about the physical reality of this vessel. Let's look at the stats. The Costa Fortuna was built in 2003.
Yes, it was.
It's roughly 103,000 gross tons, carrying up to 3,470 passengers at max capacity, but built in 2003. That means by the time it launches as the Beachcomber in 2027, this hull will have seen 24 years of maritime wear and tear.
That's a lot of miles.
Constant saltwater exposure, engine cycles, plumbing use. I mean, Vibe doesn't keep the plumbing working.
No, it doesn't.
So how does a nearly quarter-century-old ship compete with the modern billion-dollar megaships that are currently dominating the Caribbean? Is a fresh coat of paint and a tattoo parlor really enough to mask a 24-year-old foundation?
It is a massive calculated risk, for sure. But the answer lies in the industry strategy of lifestyle branding.
Okay.
What you have to understand about the dry dock process with companies like MJM Marine and Mivan is that they aren't just slapping on a coat of paint.
Right.
Marine outfitting at this level involves stripping the public spaces down to the raw steel. They gut the interior and replace it with a highly specific, immersive brand identity.
So they aren't trying to compete on maritime hardware at all.
Not even a little. They aren't trying to have the biggest roller coaster or the highest water slide, which is the arms race the megaships are in right now.
Right, the billion-dollar floating amusement parks.
Exactly. Building a new ship from scratch right now costs upwards of $1 billion and takes years of shipyard slots. By acquiring an older ship and utilizing specialized outfitters, Margaritaville at sea can completely bypass that price tag.
The economics make sense if you can lock in a specific demographic, I guess.
But the passenger still has to buy into it.
Right, and that's the psychology of lifestyle branding.
Yeah, for a certain demographic, the appeal isn't being on the newest engineering marvel. The appeal is sitting at the flip-flop bar with a margarita, getting a custom tattoo at a permanent reminder studio, and feeling entirely immersed in the parrot-head lifestyle.
So Margaritaville is betting that brand loyalty and a curated onboard atmosphere can completely override the age of the steel underneath their feet.
Exactly. They're selling an identity, not a state-of-the-art vessel.
And Margaritaville is taking a calculated gamble on older hardware to secure their specific demographic. But when you look at massive players like Royal Caribbean, they aren't gambling on old ships.
No.
They're gambling on global agility. And as we're about to see, that corporate agility comes at a direct financial cost to the booked passenger.
It absolutely does. Because while establishing these new themed deployments is exciting on paper, the physical process of moving massive vessels around the globe to chase profitability it often causes severe headaches for passengers who have already handed over their deposits.
Let's look at Royal Caribbean's recent moves in the Asian market. At the 2026 ITB Shanghai Expo, Royal Caribbean made it very clear that they are heavily targeting the Chinese FET segment.
Right, and FET stands for Fully Independent Traveler.
Okay.
For context, the Chinese cruise market used to be heavily dominated by massive block bookings, like travel agencies buying up hundreds of cabins and selling them as rigid group tours.
Right, the old model.
Yeah. The FIT segment represents a shift toward individual families and couples wanting to design and book their own independent vacations, much like the North American market.
And to capture that independent market, Royal Caribbean rolled out some incredibly slick technology.
They really did.
On March 10, they launched a mini program called Royal Partner Plus. It already boasts over 200 travel agency partners and 5,000 registered users.
Which is huge adoption in a short time.
Yeah, and the technology is designed to remove every ounce of friction from the buying process. It gives travel agents price quotes in about 30 seconds and generates automatic confirmation letters. They want to lock in your money instantly.
And the anchor for that region's 2026-27 season remains the Spectrum of the Seas, which is a massive 4,246 passenger ship. The front-end technology is flawless at getting passengers booked onto that vessel.
But here's where the operational machine grinds against the passenger experience. Structural itinerary planning, things like port agreements, shifting regional demand, and logistical needs forced Royal Caribbean to completely redeploy the Spectrum of the Seas for its summer 2027 season.
Yeah.
Because of that global reshuffling, they simply canceled a scheduled February 14th, 2027 5-night Shanghai sailing.
And this is where the contrast between that 30-second booking technology and the back-end customer service becomes glaringly obvious. Guests booked on that canceled February 14th sailing were notified on May 14th.
And let's talk about the compensation policy, because it is incredibly rigid.
Oh, yeah.
Guests were not automatically rebooked. They were offered a list of alternative dates in 2026 and 2027, but the fare protection only applied to the base cruise fare.
Which is a huge detail.
Let me emphasize how punishing that is for the consumer. Fare protection excluded taxes, fees, gratuities, and other non-cruise items. Crucially, the line offered zero onboard credit or any additional compensation for the massive disruption to the passengers' vacation plans.
So the passenger is left completely exposed to the collateral damage of the cruise line's strategic pivot.
It's infuriating. I mean, think about it like a restaurant.
Right.
It's like a restaurant using a lightning-fast app to instantly lock in your reservation and take your deposit. But when they decide to host a private party instead and kick you out, they only refund you for the steak. keeping the taxes and the tip.
That's a brutal way to look at it, but it's accurate.
Right, like why does the individual passenger have to absorb the financial friction of a multi-billion-dollar corporation's global reshuffling?
It's a completely valid frustration.
Right.
And it brings us right back to the harsh reality of the contract of carriage that we talked about earlier.
Right.
Platforms like Royal Partner Plus are engineered to be seamless. But the actual legal contract you agree to, the second you pay that deposit, remains heavily ironclad weighted in favor of the cruise line's operational flexibility.
The fine print always wins.
It's designed to. In maritime law and within these contracts, itinerary planning and operational needs will always trump a confirmed booking. Yeah, the cruise line explicitly reserves the right to move a ship, change a port, or cancel a sailing entirely if it serves their broader corporate strategy. And because the contract limits their liability strictly to the base fare, passengers are left to navigate the very real financial losses without any mandated compensation.
It really pulls back the curtain on the industry. We started today by asking where the cruise line's responsibility to you begins and ends.
We did.
And whether we are talking about a tragic physical injury on a marketed shore excursion or the basic financial protection of your confirmed booking, the answer always seems to be buried deep in the fine print, protecting the house.
It leaves you with a really provocative thought to explore, I think.
Yeah.
As these megaships become larger, older, and more heavily branded, they effectively operate as massive, self-contained sovereign nations at sea. The modern cruiser is engaged in a constant, invisible negotiation of power with these floating cities.
That's a great point.
From assuming the physical risks of third-party vendors simply because they bear a familiar logo, to bearing the frustrating financial burden of canceled itineraries, at what point will international maritime law be forced to evolve?
Right, because right now it feels very lopsided.
Exactly. How much longer can these billion-dollar corporate entities hide behind centuries-old maritime loopholes designed for cargo ships, rather than protecting the millions of modern passengers who fund their fleets? It's definitely something to think about the next time you step onto a gangway.
Thanks for listening to Cruise News. Visit cruisenews.io to catch up on the latest updates and sign up for free email alerts.